Hey everyone, and welcome to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 167. Yes, I'm doing that now. Well, at least this week. I'll probably forget next week. We talk about DC Comics on this show. I am Peter, and joining me, as always, is Matt.
Hey, what's up?
And Connor's also here. He's in great pain, which pleases me ever so.
I'm suffering through it for the people.
For the people, yes. Yes, Connor was ill via flu and now has toothache, so he's had a rough week.
Yeah.
Yes. So any delays to anything that's been expected recently? That's why. Just I won't go through them all. I'll just anything that's been expected in the past week that's not happened.
I will take blame on this one, but I mean, I don't feel too bad about it because that was pretty bad.
Yeah, well, you know. So yeah, we talk about DC Comics. Coming up on this week's show, we have DCeased. Issue 4, we got Batman 76, we got Justice League 29, we have Lois Lane number 2, we have Sinestro Year of the Villain issue 1, and we have Superman Up in the Sky number 2. You'll notice Green Lantern was missing there. Connor only read a limited batch of books this week, and he didn't get to Green Lantern, so due to illness and headaches and
It'll be
things.
Next week or the week after, depending on how the schedule's looking.
Yeah. So that's the books that come out today. There's a little bit of news as well, and then as per usual, we'll probably ramble for a little bit first, because that's typically how this show starts, with us catching up on the week and seeing what we've been doing and what random things been happening in Matt's life that he likes to tell us about. Notably this week, there's no, I went to Star Wars Land, here's my lightsaber talk, which is...
No, not this week. That was the last week.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
Nice and peaceful.
He will get the lightsaber if you push him.
Probably.
Well, it is around the corner still.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a full weekend of wrestling, Matt, if you'd like to annoy Connor for a minute.
I'm so out of the loop, I forgot it was TakeOver. So, it's been a rough week for me. To cap it all off, I had a massive over-the-phone fight with my dad from Thailand. Because he does not know that you can't... He does know. He chooses not to. Can't mix alcohol and pain pills. Yet he chooses to do so.
You can with ibuprofen.
Yeah, that's not a pain pill. When I talk pain pill, I'm talking
not like serious. But even paracetamol, which are the same level as ibuprofen. You can't mix those.
No. So, anyways, I'm in a foul mood now. I want to crush things like the Hulk.
So some angry reviews from Matt coming.
Maybe crowdsourcing a plane ticket so I could fight my dad in a Muay Thai ring. More on that later.
Oh dear. Okay, yeah, that was 1 week. Connor had a miserable week.
Yeah, I was ill and then I chipped my tooth. Cannot get into a dentist. There isn't a single one available in the city that can see me. So I'm miserable and pain.
I had an up and down week. I was a bit miserable for a couple of days, but I cheered up after. I have nothing specific to be mad about like you two though, so I guess I came out on top this week for a change. Here's to a mediocre week, which we all aspire to have.
Sounds blissful right now.
Oh dear.
Well, school's starting, so now I don't have to wake up so early. That's good.
Well, that was nice.
No more 4 a.m. days. So
It's weird how you have to wake up earlier and when they're not at school. That's bizarre to me.
Yeah, well, that's because of what I do. When there's no kids there, it makes my job easier. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and it's hotter than shit, and they don't want to pay for air conditioning past a certain time. So, yeah.
If I get air conditioning for 2 hours, then that is the 2 hours I'll complete every task I'm going to do this day.
Exactly. So. But yeah. So and it's hot and like hotter than normal at this time of year.
Oh no, we're back to miserable weather now. Yeah. We've been having thunderstorms, flooding.
And that's not horrible. We said we're back to it.
No, this is the standard, I guess. Terrible rain and wind. It's kind of what I expect. But I mean, to be fair, it did knock out the power for like half of England yesterday. Not me, thankfully, but like half England lost power, hospitals lost their power, airports, train, everything just completely shut down.
I No, I mean, it's still relatively warm here, but it's definitely been raining more often. Very unpredictably so as well, might I add. I've been going out on walks every day, and I've been trying to, if I look at the weather and go, well, it's raining, it started raining at this time, so I'll make sure I get my walk in before then. And there's been days where the entire opposite things happened, either to annoy me, or I take precautions and nothing happens, and the whole thing's been...
No, I sat down yesterday, and it wasn't raining at all, and then I heard a thunderclap, like, right above my house. I was like, shit, that was close. And then immediately just torrential downpour rain. Usually when we get, it builds up to it. You got some lighter rain, it gets heavier. This was just out of nowhere, just some of the heaviest rain I've seen. It was weird.
Yeah, the thunder's more of a late summer thing though, because it's because it's still kind of warm as well as being wet, as opposed to the winter where it's just kind of wet and it's fine.
It's just wet and cold.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah. So, no, yeah. I'm watching movies this week. I've been doing that. I watched... Matt, did you ever see 7 Days in Hell? It's a HBO thing. It was Sandberg and...
the tennis one.
Yeah, tennis one with, what's his face for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that one's good, but it's not as good as the Tour de France one.
I saw that
Tour de
this
France.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Had its moments.
I don't know if the Tour de France one's going to make you laugh like it did with me, though. Because it includes John Cena picking a naked man up over his head and spinning him around.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if I slightly like the sound of this that much.
And then they talk about the physics of a flapping wing and how it affected the tour.
There's a couple of moments of 7 Days from Hell that made me laugh really hard. One was an erection. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And then the other one was when Kit Harington got a phone call from the Queen. We don't get to hear the conversation, and he just looks at the documentary and goes, and they go, "What did she say?" He's like, "She wants me to win," and that's it.
Oh, it was Tour de Pharmacy. That's the name of that one.
Oh dear. No.
You find out that everybody's on certain drugs.
So it's just a documentary then.
Yeah. But yeah, it had Andy Samberg, John Cena, Orlando Bloom, Daveed Diggs, and Freddie Highmore. And then Lance Armstrong plays Lance Armstrong. But then they also do this funny thing where they have older versions as they're recounting the documentary. So Jeff Goldblum's the older Andy Samberg. Dolph Lundgren's the older John Cena. So
that's actually kind of good.
It's real funny.
That's actually pretty good. I watched The Night Comes for Us on Netflix. That's really good. If you like action movies, you should watch that. I highly recommend it. Brutal and violent. I will leave it at that. So yeah. So yeah, I had a less miserable week, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Me and Matt are talking about all this shit stuff. He's like, I'll watch some movies.
Yeah.
Look, it's not my fault.
It's an Indonesian movie, that's why. That makes sense.
No, Matt, you'd be into this one. You'd love it. I promise.
I'm not saying I wouldn't or not. I'm just saying you said it was dark and violent, and that checks out.
I said brutal and violent. I wouldn't say it's that dark. It's brutal and violent.
Dark, whatever. I wish I had time to do things this week. I just didn't.
I'm sorry. Not nature, but whatever's affecting Connor caught with him. And I'm sorry that Matt's got family troubles. I'm sorry that I had none of those things this week.
The worst part is the family troubles only started this morning. Everything else was fine. I started of it being hot and me being extra tired. But yeah. And I'm behind on the G1. Everything is terrible.
I'm also behind in the G1, Matt. I wouldn't worry too much about that. I guarantee I'm more behind than you.
Yeah, but the finals are coming and people can't help but spoil it. So I have to watch 6 hours of wrestling over the next 48.
That seems like a very normal amount for you.
Yeah, but is that including or not including TakeOver?
That's not including TakeOver.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm watching live for the first time in forever. So, yeah, they've kind of, I don't want to say they've ruined NXT, but it seems to be missing a spark right now.
Mm.
So, but yeah, it sucks.
Yep.
And Glow's on. Haven't even had a chance to watch Glow.
I watched the first episode yesterday. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Tied into history in a neat way. But yeah, hell of a week. Anyway, so yeah, we talked about comic books. We'll get cracking into the news, the comic book news that we have this week. We got a couple of quick things. And then maybe something that's worth more of a discussion. So first up, we have some actual last-minute delays for next week, which is funny because me and Connor were looking at the schedule for next week recently, and we're commenting how different it is from last month where we had like 12, 13 books, and it was like a packed week too. Next week was already a lot later. Next week, I think I had 8 books versus like 12. So, that's a third just cut like from last month. Which made sense because there was one-shots last month and other things that were beefing up, delayed books that had fallen on it. But me and Matt are losing some more books for next week because DC is pulling Superman 14 and Supergirl 33 from stores and saying they're going to recirculate them at a later date.
Yeah, what's interesting is they've already been printed and presumably shipped to stores, or at least they're in the order ready to be shipped because they're asking the stores to destroy the copies.
Yes, which sounds very serious. And I have to wonder because it also mentions this is going to delay the Legion.
I think they just mean the fact that the Legion's supposed to return in this issue of Superman.
Okay. Well, I have to
I
imagine.
don't know if my shop gets it, I'm going to have it. I don't care what I have to pay.
He says that he's going to walk in next week and go, I paid $500 at the comic store this week.
No, not that much.
They have claimed that it's just because of the covers. They're like, oh, the cover, because of the production schedule, the covers don't line up with what we had scheduled at the time. And I'm not sure if I believe that. This seems quite extreme. It's a 2 and a 3 week delay.
Yeah.
For just a different cover.
How many covers in comic books have not represented what's inside the book?
Right. It's interesting it's to me anyway.
Yeah, it's very odd.
The good thing is, if there is a conspiracy, we will find out about it because there's too many copies that are going to be shipped for us to not hear.
Exactly, which is why I almost think there can be one then because they would know we'd all find out anyway. They know that it's going to if there's like some story thing they're going to change, people are going to find out. It's going to be there. They know this.
Yeah.
Which makes me think, I don't know.
It seems weird as well though to push them to separate weeks. If it's just we're just doing a new cover and slapping it on and reprinting.
So I wonder if again, I was going to say I wonder if they want it to line up with other stuff that's happening elsewhere in the DCU, but at the same time, why destroy the copies then? Why not just say we're holding these back, don't sell them for 2 weeks or whatever?
Yeah. This
is very fishy. I mean, it's not a big deal. It's a couple of weeks delay for a couple of books.
It's just so unusual.
Yeah. Superman's now coming week 4 this month, and Supergirl's coming week 1 next month. So, what's interesting there is that we may get 2 issues of Supergirl back to back. Because it's not like they delayed this because the issue is not done and the artist is behind or anything like that.
So they claim.
Well, I mean, if the book's there in boxes waiting to be shipped, then it's...
Well, no, I mean, for all we know, they're actually changing a lot of the interior and the next issue won't line up either. So we'll see on that.
Oh, sure, yeah. Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I wonder if they introduced something and they've changed their minds on what let's say they're introducing the Legion, but they've changed their minds on what half the Legion outfits are going to be, and that's what they're redoing.
Yeah.
So it's not really a story change, it's just no, we want to change the designs of like half these characters.
Could be. So neither as of right now when they were printed, they were the Year of the Villain tie-ins, and both of them are losing that now.
Oh, I wonder if that means there's a couple of extra pages on each book versus before.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah.
Replacing those Year of the Villain book pages. Yeah. There you go. Bizarre little bit of news. Be sure to give us your thoughts. And then a weekly tradition here on the show is to tell you about Shazam issue 7 being pushed back another week. So here we go. Shazam issue 7 has now been pushed back. This is from August 8th, this update. It's been rescheduled now to September 11th, which is now 13 weeks later than the original date. Which I do hate the headline they always put in this, because they always keep saying, oh, it's been pushed 13 weeks, and I'm like, well, yes, it's 13 weeks total, but it's not another 13-week delay.
Yeah.
It's another 1 week delay. Because last week it was 12 weeks delay.
It was. I love that they do update the same article though, so you can just see the running tally of every week. Because it was exactly a week. It updated August 1st. And another change to Shazam 7.
Well, I look forward to next week when we tell you about September 18th being the new date for Shazam number 7. Look forward to that next week.
Yeah, they did with this one. They did push back 8 through 11 as well.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, well, but I say that because last week they didn't.
At this point, no, I'm just not going to believe anything they say about those issues until 7's in stores.
I think 7 might be the only issue we get for the rest of the year.
It may be. It depends what's holding all this up. It really does, because I mean, sometimes the dates they've got for future issues are just absurd, knowing what they know internally. But let's say that there is some logic here to them thinking they can get the rest out quicker. I mean, maybe we do get more issues before the end of the year.
Maybe, but they're claiming, every 2 weeks after this issue. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, well, I don't believe that either. I still think they're going to get pushed, but I think we'll get 1 or 2 issues after this before the end of the year.
We'll see.
I don't think it's that absurd expectation. As long as Doomsday Clock's done by the end of the year, Shazam can take a wee break.
All I'm saying is it's been 3 months between issues 6 and 7. That's all it takes. Another 3 and we're into next year at that point.
Yeah.
I'm going to put my reputation on the line and say they'll have issue 8 out by the end of the year. That's all I'm willing to bet. I'm not betting anything else. But issue 8.
Why don't they just bundle it as a, like a black label size book, and just release it all in one shot?
Because they still want it to be an ongoing. They still want to keep going with it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, they still could. I'm just talking about all the stuff that's gotten delayed.
Yeah.
Because if their plan's there, they can still do it 2 weeks after.
Do you know what we haven't had in a little while?
Mm-hmm.
A Doomsday Clock delay.
We've not.
Oh, a Doomsday Clock in a while.
I mean,
we're due one soon, though, right? When are we due the next one? End of this month?
I'm going to check what Comixology currently has the next one listed for.
The next one's 11, right? We're on the show 11 next.
Yes, 11 is next. You are right. 10 happened.
And that's scheduled for when right now?
4th of September.
Okay, so this has been delayed a week beyond the end of this month. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not too long. I'm not going to say that I don't think it will get delayed a week or two.
Yeah, we've got nearly a month yet for it to delay.
But I feel confident it'll be out by the end of September.
Yeah, that's plausible.
Oh dear. I'm going to screenshot Matt's face right now, and just anytime I want to post a blank expression saying I don't care about this thing, I'm just going to post a picture of what Matt's looking like right now.
I don't care about the delays anymore. I just want my Shazam book. I don't care when it comes out.
Matt's lost all hope.
I'm trying to figure out what this means for House of X number 2, because I haven't read them, and I clicked on a Newsrealm article, and this is why I don't read Hickman.
Yeah, don't bother.
Yeah,
I've not touched Hickman's X-Men, and nor am I planning to. Not my thing. All right, so the interesting article in Newsarama this week, where Jim Lee was talking about the current state of DC's digital business, and this pertaining to actual digital comic book sales as well as DC Universe. It's not just the Universe service. This was more of a wider scope. Basically, he said DC's digital sales have hit a wall. They've stopped growing, which is interesting. For a couple of reasons.
And this isn't just a recent one. It says been flat in recent years, which means that this isn't just a 1 quarter slump.
Which I wonder if it speaks to me. One, that digital books are just priced too much for what they are.
I think it's very, very possible that is a significant factor.
I think that's a factor. I think another factor is, especially now, is that are people willing to just wait the year on DC Universe and read them that way? Like, do they mind being a year behind if it means not having to buy books?
I can understand it. Price-wise, it's very appealing for DC Universe. I can't remember. It's about, I think, $8 or something like that a month. I don't know how much I pay. It just comes out of my bank.
Yeah. Because another thing I wonder as well is, like, trade waiting's still a thing in digital, and I think there's an appeal to just waiting, and then especially if you're buying the trades on sale, because they tend to go on sale fairly often, that you can blag a 6-issue trade, which is normally, say, $15-20, and get it for like $5. Like, that happens often enough that I think a lot of people do wait for that. And I know for me, speaking about trades, I mean, I don't wait for them to say, obviously we do single issues for the show, but when it comes to buying trades of classic material, I never pay full price. I just wait for sales because they happen often enough that I can just wait and just get a bunch then, and never ever consider paying more than $5 or $6 per book.
Yeah, me too.
That said, though, I've said this for a while. Back when this was kind of rumored that DC Universe might have like comics day and date and that kind of thing. Like, if they do a day and date thing with a digital service like that, and obviously I expect them to charge a reasonable amount. If they charge like $20 a month for it, I would happily pay that and never buy another comic again.
I get that.
It'd basically be their version of Netflix originals. It would just be, no, you get all this stuff when it comes out. This is why you pay for the service. You got a big back catalogue, and that's it. The models...
Yeah, and he did mention that subscriptions for DC Universe are still going up. Now, this news wasn't... like, this interview was not, in the last week. I know, obviously, they've only just published it, but it was before the Doom Patrol with HBO Max news. It was before that because they didn't know. He didn't mention the specifics of that deal. He just kind of talked vaguely as, oh, yeah, there are plans.
It's worth mentioning, though, that since then there's been a couple of renewals, maybe gaining a bit of trust with the service.
Yeah. He did say, no, that there are plans for shows still. There are more announcements to come. He was very clear that those were in the line. But the fact that there was, when this interview happened, was probably when trust in DC Universe was at its lowest, right? You were coming up towards the end of Swamp Thing, which was cancelled after one episode, and
terrible.
Well, that too. But even that aside, even for the people who liked it, there was that.
Yeah.
You didn't really know what was coming up next year, really, after Stargirl. It was not great. Yet their subscription numbers were still going up.
That's good. I mean, the back catalogue of comics, especially since I've expanded it, is definitely a big appeal for people who are into comics. And I think one of the big things about buying single comics is I think it's a really hard sell. I think, if I wasn't doing this show, I don't know if I'd necessarily be buying that many single issues, week to week. I'd probably be reading a lot more in trade, because it's a lot easier to sell people on, hey, get a volume every 6 months that'll cost, this amount, and you get a significant chunk, and you can read a few books that way. Convincing people to like opt in to like, you get anything from 4 to 10 single issues a week, and it racks up the price to this amount like very quickly. And
no, that's why DC do fantastic in the book market, because they understand that element of it. Of, hey, no, we package in a solid trade paperback hardcover. Doesn't need to be that fancy. It doesn't need to be a deluxe. It doesn't have to have all these bonus features. They just need to put the trade in the shop, and that will sell, because people see it as an actual book at that point. They gravitate towards it. They go, yeah, it's not that much more than buying, a novel. And, it's a reasonable chunk of a story, like I say, or maybe even a full story, depending on what it is.
Yeah. Because it is hard to... I mean, I've... people who have been vaguely interested in some characters or whatever in the past, and I've said, oh, hey, it's only, a couple $1 to try an old issue or something. I recommended issue 1 of whatever it was, to just try that, test how you feel about it, and then if you like it, I'll recommend the trade or whatever. And almost no one has ever came back and said, okay, what do I buy next or whatever. That they read it and go, yeah, that was fine, but I don't know if I want to devote like $2 per issue of this. Like, it doesn't, to new people, it doesn't feel like a worthwhile investment.
It's one of those where digital singles kind of should be cheaper, but they can't without being very unfair to the stores. I know there was a point a couple of years ago where Dark Horse said, I think it might have been before they were on Comixology, were going to price their digital singles lower, and like a shitload of stores just went, well, we won't carry you then if you're selling them cheaper on there, and they were not willing to lose that percentage of the market.
Yeah.
I think specifically for DC, obviously they used to do the thing where after 2 months or whatever it was, they drop the price by $1, and they've stopped doing that. I think that was a pretty big mistake, personally.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake. I like that system.
And I don't think shops mind it either, because a lot of them will go, well, after a few months, we'll throw it in the back issue bin anyway and just grab it for $1, because better $1 than nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of mirrors what shops do in a sense. I missed that system. I know. I think Marvel still do it, but they wait a lot longer to do it though. They wait like over a year before their book goes down. I know.
Image still do it.
Image still do it. IDW still do it, and what's insane about IDW is that their books do come off as really expensive to the point where, like their trades, I mean, they're often in sales. I'll buy the singles rather than the trade of a series because their trade's so overpriced for 4 issues, even on sale, that buying the 4 single issues on sale is actually a better proposition.
Yeah, buying the 4 single issues is usually $4, where even on sale the trade can be $6.
Yeah, so it's just, it works out that way. Obviously you don't want to like piss off actual physical book, but I mean there is something to be said for why a digital book should be cheaper than a physical book. There's no production. Now the argument against it, of course, just on a value basis, is the physical book does have some ads in it, whereas the digital book doesn't. So
exactly, yeah, and we're talking about everyone takes a cut with the physical book. I think Comixology, and Amazon take like a 30-odd% cut of everything on their store. So I mean that immediately is a third of the revenue gone. Yeah.
The concerning thing is though is that the price is sort of creeping up, and we're getting to the point now where $4 is the normal price. A lot of books are $5.
I've seen a few stores talking about this in recent weeks where the expectation is Marvel will be at $5 a book by next year, if not early next year.
And that's where it gets really hard on digital. It's okay, I've accepted that we're getting used to $4, but once it's $5 for a digital book, it's like, well, did it have to go up digitally as well, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it becomes a tough sell.
Because DC did try the dual pricing for a while.
I did it. I thought it was great. I loved that dual pricing.
No, I get why you did. I wonder if it was a backlash from the shops that cut out, because I know at that point it was the shops had the digital code included, but it was $1 more.
Yeah.
But you got both. Apparently, according to DC, the redemption rate on those codes was in the single-digit percentages, so they just decided it was not worth doing.
Oh, I mean, that's a shame. I mean, the problem with that, though, is that it affects the digital buyers who were just happy to be getting it cheaper. So, and all that really happened was that the price raised for digital buyers, and 90+% of the people buying the physical book lost nothing.
Exactly, but the thing that they were putting in the physical book was theoretically subsidizing what they were losing digitally. And they were like, well, we're not going to bring the other one down, so that one's got to go up for parity.
Parity's a bitch. I hate parity. It's the worst thing ever.
No, it is. It is been a consistent, not just in comics, but in the fight between brick and mortar stores and digital storefronts. The parity has been the issue that has caused the most problems.
Yeah, because the sucky thing is that you're not getting. I mean, obviously we still have the convenience of digital, but we're not getting any of the benefits, other benefits that we should have because of this petty kind of no, we can't be, because the physical stores are so scared that if digital has all the benefits that it could have, then no one will want physical anymore. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I think people who love physical books are going to keep buying physical books.
To a point, I think margins on a lot of comic shops are very slim as it is. I know stores, if they lose even 10% of their readership, that's it. They could go under quite easily. I think if you drop the price of digital compared to the store by a significant margin, which is kind of what we're talking about here, I think 10% of people, they probably would abandon the stores and go and save the money digitally, and that would suck for those stores. I can see why they're scared.
The sad truth is, though, is I don't think, like, I want people to support comic book stores. I don't want comic book stores to go away. But the sad truth is this is kind of an inevitable sort of thing that everyone's fighting because they want them to stick around. You know, there's this fight for survival in the face of something that ultimately is inevitable.
Well, I mean, it hasn't been inevitable in all industries yet. So, you know, they haven't lost yet.
Well, no, I mean...
All I know is the one thing that keeps my shop afloat is magic sales.
Yeah, Funko Pops usually do a lot of business.
My store doesn't do any of that stuff. It's just comics.
Right.
They should branch out. You should have a chat with them and say, "Hey, start."
Well, but that's the point. Like, that's to go to games. That's what, like, GameStop are doing as well. Like, oh, they're going, well, hang on, games. It's the same parity issue with the digital storefronts, where they're like, well, we need to branch out, and there are a lot of comic stores doing that, but I don't want them all to do that because my store is pretty small. It has a lot of independent books, local books, as well as the DC Marvel image, all the usual. If they have to put in magic cards and Funko Pops, that's a lot of their that's a lot of their space gone, and all those independent comics will just vanish because they won't be able to afford them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying there's no negatives to this. I'm not saying that there's nothing sad about it. But the thing is, though, if you look at movies, for example, right, is that physical movies still exist, but they're definitely more of a niche thing. It's people who really love movies who still collect physical media. And I love physical media, and I don't want it to go away, because it's better. It just is. A 1080p Blu-ray is much better than a 1080p Netflix stream. 4K likewise. And I say that as someone who's never seen a 4K Blu-ray on a 4K TV before, but I'm sure it's magical. I respect it enough to know it's magical. But ultimately, it's more of a niche thing, and you've seen this thing in the film industry where a lot of movies aren't being released physically by their own companies anymore. They're being licensed out to these like boutique labels who want to do them and want to treat them with respect, and they're being allowed to do that because they see the physical market as something that's not worth investing in, but these boutique labels do it, and then the streaming's for the mainstream, right? And I think ultimately, comics in and of itself is kind of a niche market, right, in terms of its size. Like, it's nothing compared to the other industries. And I think, sadly, ultimately, eventually, the physical chunk of it might actually end up being like a niche within the niche. Assuming digital gets to the point where it should, where it's priced a bit more fairly and some of these obstacles are removed. But
yeah, it's hard to say, because I think the key difference between comics and movies here is that reading a comic physically is a much more tactile experience, whereas streaming versus a Blu-ray, we can see the difference. There is a clear objective difference. That's just a fact. But you're still sitting and watching it on the same screen. So it feels like a relatively comparable experience, whereas reading a comic digitally versus a physical book in your hand is a completely different experience entirely.
We could throw out all this conversation, though, and maybe just leap to this assumption that there's a ceiling on comic book sales, and if there's a ceiling on comic book sales, there's also a ceiling on what the percentage that's digital. And so the question I ask is, are single issues physically also kind of flat? I think they did go up a little bit in the start of this year when the fiscal year came out.
They were up over last year, yeah.
Yeah, but by how much? Like, is it like a big increase, or are we?
But are they up because there's more, or are they up because there's actually more sales? You know what I mean? Like, are there just more books on the market?
You're saying, is it the same people just buying more books?
Yeah.
Right, or is it actual sales that have gone up? Because my take, and again, I'm not good with numbers or money in this way, but if DC is getting away from doing the double shipping, right, and just going back to everything single shipping, everything's going to be minimum $4, then that tells me less people are going to be buying. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and then you also have to include variants where digital you just buy the digital book and that's it. You've got your book. Whereas physical, some people will buy multiple covers. They'll buy whatever.
Yeah.
I definitely see it becoming a niche market where most books. I mean, most of the people I know now are going more towards digital, anyways, because it's easier. Because it's the time to go into the shop. Because like shops are becoming less and less.
Yeah, that's not just true of comics. That's everything, though, right?
Not just comics
in general is struggling.
I mean,
convenience.
I still like going into the regular bookstore and look around, but I tend not to buy anything, just because I can go on Amazon and get it for like a third of the price, But I like going and looking and being around the physical things. Comics is a little bit different, I like that I can go in once a week, pick up my new stuff, but I have been buying less, physically since I moved, just because I have nowhere to put all this stuff. So
Yeah.
um,
There's,
and
there's so many little reasons that pile up as to why digital is really, really tempting, even if you do really like the big physical pages and whatnot.
So I get why they don't want to lower the price of digital, but if that might just be the thing to do, because you're always going to have people that go into the shops to buy certain books.
Here's the thing. I don't know if that will solve the problem. I think, okay, lowering the digital price, sure. Pete might pick up a few extra books. If he saves $5, he might, because they're all $1 cheaper, he might pick up an extra couple of books. But that's the same thing we're just saying with the singles. It's the same people just buying more things. I don't know if the people who are not reading digitally, lowering the price would make enough for difference versus the subscription.
I don't know though, because I know plenty of people that would read more books if they were priced at $2. I mean, that used to be me. The number of stuff that I used to read when books were routinely $1.99, like way back when I first started reading.
But I guess we're talking about it being really making it more tempting to a new person. Like, hey, you can read books at this price.
Yeah. So. I'm not talking about you or us buying more books. I'm getting completely new people going into comics.
Which, to be fair, we would. If books were $2, we'd all be buying more.
But I'm talking to people like my sister who went and saw Captain Marvel, got really into the Carol character. Like, she has an iPad, and if I was like, hey, you can go start reading her book, that new Kelly Thompson one that's really good, and it's only going to cost her $2 an issue. That's something I feel like she would do. She's not going to go to the comic book store,
But alternatively, and here's what I think, and this is part of the culture we're in now, is she can go to Marvel Unlimited and read the whole thing in a month for $8 or $9, whatever that costs.
Which brings me around. I genuinely think the future. I don't know how. I don't think this is close because they're determined to make the money the way they are right now. But I do think the inevitable future is eventually more of a digital streaming platform where you get things day and date for a premium price. You just pay monthly, and that's how they make their money. Because let's face it, every industry is kind of switching to that model. That's what they want. The music industry's done it. Movies are doing it. The idea of
games are doing it as we speak.
Yeah, the idea of owning each thing individually is something that companies are trying to get away from. They'd rather sell you a license to access the library and just have you pay that every month.
And
that's what software did, right?
With that.
Sorry, Matt?
Software was the first to start that, like back in the 90s, the whole license thing.
I think you're right,
where you weren't necessarily buying the product, you were buying access to the product. So you'd have to renew it. I remember, I forget what program it was, but my stepdad, I remember him bitching about that. He's like, I just spent $100 on this thing. I'm not spending it again next year. But
yeah, it's what music's been like on for decade, like a decade. Like iTunes, for example. Not even just streaming, like music you purchase on iTunes. If something to the license on Apple's end happens, they'll remove that song from your library and replace it with the closest thing they can find. So it might be like a live version or something like that.
Right.
So you can just completely lose what you paid for.
Or even what's weird is I went looking for this obscure hardcore song, right? And they only had it in the iTunes Australia, right? So, but after I searched it, like the next week, it popped up in the America, the US Apple Music. So it's almost, it's almost like if they know there's the want for that, it makes it easier to adjust versus, like a record store. Like even as old as I am, I don't have memories of a record store.
Yeah, I think one of the big problems I have with streaming in general, and I'm thinking mainly with movies here, but I'm going to tie this into what I think the benefit of the comics is that with movies, one of the things I hate about streaming and all these places setting up the services is that, okay, so you go to the Warner Brothers streaming service, they have everything that Warner Brothers has ever done. Netflix have got everything that Netflix have ever made, so on and so on. It leaves a lot of indie and like gems and obscure stuff. It leaves them all kind of out to dry where you might just never be able to find certain things again, and that's why I like being able to track things down on Blu-ray or whatever, right? The thing with comics that's really interesting is that if you're a DC Comics fan, DC Comics own every DC comic, and that can all be on the service. The entire history of the company can be there.
No, it can, but here's the thing. Let's assume people are willing to buy a handful of subscriptions just for comics. Let's say there's a Marvel one, a DC one, an Image one, Boom, and Dark Horse. Your big
Sure.
five, right? Theoretically, let's say you bought all of those. You subscribe to all of those right at once because you want to read you read that much. What about the someone who publishes an independent book that like I can go into my comic store and they'll have it, and if they don't have it, they can order it. Am I willing to, if I'm digitally already paying for all those subscriptions, how many people are then willing to go to somewhere else to buy something extra?
Honestly, they probably are. And I think the sad truth here is that this will get really convenient and it'll be really good value for all the main things, but things like that will suffer. I think you still sell them individually in Comixology, and I think I could almost even see, let's say this happens, let's say Marvel Unlimited becomes day and date and, doubles its price. DC, similar price, day and date books, and that's your big two competitors, right? Image is probably big enough at this point to do it as well. Maybe Dark Horse. I think what ends up happening is a lot of the smaller indie publishers might end up teaming up on some sort of collaboration service where you'll get Boom and you'll get IDW and you'll get...
To be fair, like there's one on the Nintendo Switch. I can't remember the name of the app because it's not very nice to read on there because they insist I do it horizontal. I can't turn it vertical.
That's
for
weird.
Some stupid reason. Yeah, I know. I know. It's like it's designed that I can just turn it, right? It's there. Why are you not implementing this? But they have like Valiant. They have like all of Valiant stuff on there. So like already the smaller publishers are willing to farm out to other places
and obviously
in Netflix kind of style.
And we shouldn't ignore the fact here that Comixology Unlimited does exist, and I think maybe that's where they would maybe all these smaller publishers would go a lot more all in that, and maybe that service has more of a pro plan or something that gets stuff day and date that they all buy into.
Again, though, a lot of this comes down to we see it with Netflix. The difference between a UK Netflix and a US Netflix is astonishing in terms of licensing. Comixology Unlimited isn't even available outside the US yet, and that's been going for what, a year, 2 years now?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's not. I don't think that'll be an issue with DC or Marvel. I think what if they decide to do this
because they own all their stuff, they can just license to themselves. It'll be quite easy. Yeah,
and similar again with stuff like Image and stuff like that. I feel like they could do it.
Almost makes you wonder if that's what the DC Universe app was originally like. It's a backdoor to that. We're like, hey, come watch our shows, but here's comics.
That's no. The comics is what I mostly pay for. I mean, especially since they retooled it however many months ago that was now, so it's actually like Marvel Unlimited, what we're talking about here. Before that, sure, I mean it was fine, and like right now I pay for the comics primarily. The shows are just a nice bonus that okay, they happen to be dropping those, and that's cool. I'll take my episode of Young Justice every week, thank you very much. But I use the comics quite a lot.
Yeah. No, it's handy, and like I say, I would. It's the same way I feel with games. Like I would happily never pay because games are expensive. Especially in the UK, game prices have went up since the start of this generation. They are.
It doesn't help that the pound has significantly fallen since the start.
Yeah, well, no, I mean that's the reason to blame for it. So I'm not necessarily blaming the industry, but like. I have said for a long time, like games used to always be £40 new, back in like the PS2, PS3 days, like that was the price typically. Sometimes got them a bit cheaper, but that was the main price you expected. And I always said that, especially when I started getting games on PC where they're a bit cheaper, and like I was getting brand new games for about 30ish, I was like, hey, 30ish is a really good price, because 30 is like, it feels like I'm still paying a premium for day one access, but it has this kind of like, oh, it's just cheap enough that I'm willing to like take a little chance if I'm just like casually intrigued by the game. Right now though, if I go into PSN and I'm looking at the big games that are coming out over the next few months, they're all 55 to 60, which is absurdly priced.
Yeah, and we're talking about games moving to subscription. They're all doing it movie style, where all the separate companies want their own. So Microsoft has one, EA has one, Ubisoft has one, and interestingly, if you add them all up right now, it probably works out at about $60, which is the cost of one game per month. So it seems fairly reasonable in that sense.
Yeah, Sony need to do it. I want Sony to do it so bad.
Oh, but Sony are terrible when it comes to digital stuff like this.
I know. I they need to catch up because they're the ones I care about doing this. I want them to do it.
Yeah.
Because I would happily never pay a full price for a game again. I happily would, because it feels so expensive to do now.
I rarely do right now. I typically I use a rental service, or I use subscriptions like Microsoft's Game Pass, because that's on PC now as well. So if you have an Xbox, there's a library there. There's enough that I can get a lot of games day one at a subscription cost versus buying a full $60 game.
Yeah, but I don't know. All this ties in because it's like every industry's changing right now because of digital, because of all this, and it's just interesting to me that all this might really just come down to there's a ceiling because there's a ceiling on comic book buyers, and it's hit that ceiling, and the percentage of comic book buyers who are going to buy digital have switched, and now we're just in a stalemate.
It's why I think the subscription is going so well for them, because I think that's a completely different audience to anyone who would ever buy a single issue or even a trade.
I mean, I think there's some overlap. I think there's plenty of people who do buy singles that are probably on there. Of course
there is. I'm on there as well. But I think there is an entirely new audience that would never go to a comic store, would never go on Comixology. Well, but again, there's a subscription that they can just pay, a month and get everything.
It's about accessibility. Like they're interested in the shows. They think, you know what, I'll pay a month to watch the show. I'll binge watch whatever season of whatever it is I want to watch, and then they go, oh hey, I've got access to all these comics. I might as well try some, and maybe they get hooked that way. Like, it's much easier and tempting to try it on a service like that where you just get access to everything, and you just say to someone like us, hey, what do you recommend? I've got access to all of it. And then we say, well, what character do you want to try? And they say,
I have
Batman.
To give
and we say,
credit to DC Universe's UI. If you click on comic books, it goes, well, what do you want? It's like, do you want characters? And it'll give you all the major characters. It'll go, do you want just some popular story arcs? Do you want to do it search by era? So Bronze Age, Silver Age, and all these things, and you can filter it all through, and it'll just give you suggestions. So for new people, I think that is actually really useful.
Yeah, you type in Kite Man, and you read.
I'm not sure what comes up if you type in Kite Man. I will find out.
You write in Kite Man, and you read all the Kite Man there
saying
is.
Hell yeah, and that's it.
Yeah, there's no results. It just says hell yeah. Oh, they should do that. That'd be quite fun.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good talk on the current state of the digital marketplace. So hopefully you enjoyed some of that, and give us your thoughts on how things are changing with digital and physical, and where you see it go in the future. And I do honestly think we're going to an eventual premium service where you just get everything day and date. I really think we're going to end up there. The hope is that they get enough subscribers that counterbalances the idea that they're not selling all these books every month, and they make as much, or if not more. And maybe that's the point of like just sticking their toes in the water with the way it is now, with building up these subs and then eventually switching more people over. Because one of the big problems in the music industry, of course, is that they get almost no revenue from all the streaming services.
Yeah, you get like a percentage of a cent per every time someone plays your track.
Yeah.
Whereas DC, it's their service, it's all in-house. It's just, here's all the profit.
Yeah, here's all the profit, pay our creators, and what have we got left? Yeah. And obviously there's more things to pay in that. I'm boiling it down to the simplest possible math.
Obviously, but it's they're getting a significantly larger slice than they would by outsourcing.
Exactly. So, all right, I guess that'll wrap up that conversation. So, we can get on to the books. So we will start off then this week with DCeased issue 4. Tom Taylor writing, of course. Hold on.
Tom Taylor.
Him writing, of course, and Trevor Hairsine on the art. And I did not remember this one having a Final Destination variant cover. I will say that, because I remember thinking it was like 4 Conjuring Universe movies in a row. So credit.
Oh yeah, this was the Titans with Final Destination, and Devin Sawa of Final Destination tweeted how cool that was, that he had a Robin in his place on the cover.
That was pretty cool. That was pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we've been looking forward to this book. We've enjoyed this book. What's funny is I read what did I read before this? I read Batman before this, and obviously we'll get to that in a minute. But Captain Atom was in that, so I actually laughed out loud. I read this second, I opened up and Captain Atom was there. I was like, how much Captain Atom?
2 Captain Atoms?
I'm getting so much Captain Atom this week. So yes, he ends up getting infected because they've got the atom inside an infected person, and then Waller's like, okay, nuclear option time. We're sending you off to just eviscerate, the infected places. That's the point we're at. Such a Waller move, let's be honest. But of course, when he's out there doing this, he realizes that an infected version of the Atom is inside his body and infects him, which is super. I mean, the Atom could go anywhere and infect anyone.
He's just ripping at Captain Atom's blood cells.
Atoms, yeah. Like,
look, you should not have Atom inside Captain Atom. There's just pick someone
well,
else.
that did, like, no kidding, that did made it a bit confusing for a read for a hot second.
Mm-hmm.
Because it said, they're referring to Captain Atom, but then he's talking to Atom. So it's like, is he talking to himself?
No, there's the one thing where it just says Atom, and you're like, wait, is that Waller talking to Captain Atom, or is it Captain Atom shouting at Atom inside of? Yeah, no.
Hey, man, I was hoping that Ray Palmer was going to make it out.
Oh.
So, yeah.
No one's making it out, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone's making
Bullshit. We're having a happy ending. I trust Tom Taylor.
After
he gave a spider bite.
After the final page of this issue, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but so
Let me have my dreams.
Superman brings back Ma Kent, and we get this Kent family hug when John and Lois find out about Pa Kent. Very, very upsetting. What's interesting here actually is that like John knows about Man Pa Kent in this world. He's met them because obviously in Rebirth the Kents have been dead for a while, so. Neat little dynamic we've not really had a chance to see before, and it makes me think of all the scenes we've been robbed of the Kents, like being with John and being grandparents and all sorts.
Didio.
Superman's been using his X-ray vision so that he doesn't look at any screens. Neat trick, yeah. He's thinking on his feet. But they broadcast over analog radio and analog TV signals to tell everyone what the plan is. Calls any heroes that hear them, any villains even, to come and meet them on the roof of the Daily Planet. And we see we see Hawk Girl, we see Beast Boy and Cass, like hear this, and we see Themyscira, we see that's where Mira escaped to. And like,
Diana's still there.
Yeah, it's basically all these people answering the call, and Diana's like, I'm going in, kind of thing. And Clark and Dinah go and get Barry and Wally and bring them in. So,
which I love that because it wasn't regular Wally, it was Wallace.
Yes,
but they fully owned him as being the Kid Flash in this universe, and that they basically were staying where they were because they didn't want the virus to get the Speed Force.
Yeah, because that would be super dangerous. That'd be.
I did like Wallace going, I don't understand how Bruce is faster than us. It just shouldn't be possible.
Barry's like, but he is.
Yeah.
That cracks me up. Then we cut back to Harley, who's battling the zombified birds of prey, and gets saved by Ivy, and she's all like, "That was pretty romantic." So go on, Connor. This was your favorite scene in the book, right?
I mean, it's a pretty damn good scene.
Yes. Read you like a fiddle.
Why am I the mark for this?
Yeah. Because I think of the Harley thing.
Yeah, because you like Harley and Ivy, whereas Matt's more of just an Ivy person.
I was like Ivy.
Well, that's fair. And I do actually like them together a lot.
Oh, I do
some
too.
Of the best stuff is the two of them.
Yeah.
It's a fun dynamic. Like.
Yeah.
'Cause I tend to like Harley better when she's not around the Joker.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then zombified, I should say, Giganta shows up and is really, almost going to bring the planet down with all the heroes that have been left on top. And that's when the Batwing shows up, and it Damien's like what? What's happening? And we figure it's probably Alfred because we know Alfred survived and is bringing the suitcase to him and that. Of course, Superman, the Flashes, and then Dinah show up and take down Giganta.
Yeah.
Well, no, they bring her down.
Oh, and Wonder Woman. Sorry.
Cyborg.
Yeah. Well, Wonder Woman wants to just sword through the head.
Yeah.
But Superman stops her.
Well, I said take down. I mean, she was already taken down before Cyborg blew the giant hole in her head.
Yeah, which made for a cool visual, but made me feel icky.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's a proper horror movie visual, and I kind of love it. I love that giant hole in her head with Cyborg standing on the other side of it.
It's such a fantastic image.
Yeah, and I love that Superman's still determined to think that maybe we can save them, which is why one of the things I praised a lot a couple issues ago was the idea of Batman saying, no, they're not humans anymore, we have to kill them. Like,
Yeah,
Right.
when he's crossed that line.
yeah.
Yeah,
he's
but
made that
Superman's
distinction.
ever hopeful, that there's still people in there. But it's always
absolutely, yeah.
it's the zombie that's not your mother anymore trope.
Yes.
So I like that Taylor's playing with that. But Cyborg's entrance was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, it's pretty great.
Because what led up to it too was there was this thunder, and they thought it was Black Lightning's daughter, Thunder, and she's like, "No, that's not me." And then the Giganta reveal, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a good entrance.
They shoot out like her eyes with the missiles, I think, because she's definitely got them at first. I think. Well, I mean, she seems to have something in her eyes at least. Whereas after a while, they're just empty spaces.
Yeah.
Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and then Hawk Girl has been injured, and she comes flying into the scene, and Wonder Woman grabs her, and she reveals that Captain Atom has been turned and he's going to blow. And this is where we get our big ridiculous ending where he's at the White House, and he goes like super nuclear to the point where he's not just taking out the one area, like his blast is spreading across the country. It's like rape 2-page spread of just a giant orb of light and buildings being decimated.
Yeah, and when it talks about Washington was gone, then Baltimore, and then finally.
Yeah, and then we see the heroes that are still on the roof of the Daily Planet and the white lights coming towards them. And I'm assuming they're not because there's 2 more issues, but it looks like they're all dead.
Yeah. Someone's telling the story, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm assuming John and Damien are the ones that make it out just because they're the kids.
I'm wondering if this light isn't quite what we assume it is. Maybe it's not the just destructive explosion. I mean, it seems to be destroying the buildings. I can see that, but I'm wondering if there's more to it.
Maybe it's wiping out the virus or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because we're over the halfway point now. We have the deceasening, and that's what I'm calling it, because
it's what we should be.
But one shot.
Yeah, that's next, right? That's the next one.
Yeah, that's next. So this is a little bit. So I feel like the next 2 issues are going to be them dealing with it, kind of like Shaun of the Dead does, where you get to the end of Shaun of the Dead and we see how the world has been changed, the
normality of it.
Yeah, and I feel that's where it's going, and I feel like the deceasening is going to give us more of that zombie type style, Walking Dead ish.
Just correct me if I'm mistaken here, but I'm pretty sure that issue is not actually called the deceasening, right?
It's not. But I'm calling it based off the cover. DCeased. I think it's called A Good Day to Die.
Yeah, I was just like, I'm pretty sure that's not the actual cover. Although I know why Matt's saying it, but
yeah. I'm disappointed it's not called that because
it should be called that. Yeah, no.
Should be.
No. I hope we get a whole DCeased cinematic universe after this. I want DCeased comes home. I want DCeased creation.
The DC universe is kind of dead right now, so be careful what you wish for.
Exactly, it's perfect.
The movies.
Get like Henry Cavill doing the zombies.
What version of the DC universe would you rather have them all be killed in? Come on. It's perfect.
True, although the Tim Burton Batman universe, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
I don't know, but
just to see.
How great would that be as a finale to this terrible universe? Just go, screw it, we're doing DCeased as the one Justice League movie, Justice League DCeased, and just do this.
Yep.
Oh, I hope it's like Jimmy who was killed like without being named, and BVS who's like the zombie master who's coming back for revenge. It's all came from him.
And that would be, let Snyder actually do it, and that's the real Snyder cut, because it would go his whole career from Dawn of the Dead to DC Zombies.
Yeah. Do you know what? I don't hate his Dawn of the Dead, but every time I hear someone say they prefer it over the original, I die a little bit inside, so I just want you all to know that. Because the original is a goddamn masterpiece. Anyway, DCeased issue 4 was solid again.
Yeah.
Because it's so quick to read, and it feels big. It feels this epic story. So sometimes Elseworldsy stuff can feel a little bit pointless,
meaningless. Yeah. But this it's well written that it has weight.
Well, because there's that emotion in there, and Taylor knows how to break the tension. The stuff with the Flashes, Batman being faster than them. I always love a horror that's not afraid to do comedy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Some do it a little bit too much. I'm looking at you, Halloween 2018, but yeah. So, and obviously, I mean, one of the things about talking about art in comic books is that we get the same artist issue to issue. Eventually, there stops being things to note on specifically unless there's kind of a grand moment or something. And,
yeah, the art in this, some of the John faces were a little bit wonky.
Yeah, I think the faces in general are very hit and miss for me with Hairsine. I think his Green Arrow tends to look quite good. I think the goatee actually really helps his Green Arrow, where sometimes like the clean shaven people are including the women in that are a little wonky looking at times. So, but I mean overall the actual progression of the action and
especially when it gets into the zombie horror stuff of it, is fantastic.
Yeah, well, the dead, they like to have wonky faces.
I don't know, just when Giganta shows up.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, and that was absolutely the right call to do that as a double page.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you want the scale, you want the size of her for sure.
Yeah, that was fantastic.
They should do a sequel to this called the Undeceased.
Undeceased.
No, okay, whatever, fine. Matt, what are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
Connor.
8.5.
I'll go with 8.5 as well. Yeah, I'm taking it. There you go. That's DCeased. Which will take us on to Batman number 76, Tom King writing, with Tony S. Daniel on the art. This is the second part of City of Bane. And lo and behold, we have a normal issue of Batman that doesn't really have that much weird stuff in it. It's just a nice, normal progression in the story.
You're only saying that because of Kite Man.
I'm not only saying that because of Kite Man.
You're only saying that because of Kite Man.
I would not say this is progression.
No,
I think you're being far too generous with the word.
I felt this was a half an issue.
Straightforward, I will give you.
Straightforward,
not
sure.
doing weird, stupid shit, I will give you. Progression, I will fight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know how Connor feels.
I do like that out of the gate, King. I almost said Taylor, but King is showing us just how powerful Gotham Girl really is.
On that mistake that you just made there was a great tweet here this week from Batman's Bookcase, who's on Twitter, who mentioned, he just a simple tweet, he said, if Tom Taylor's not the next regular writer on Batman, then what are we even doing here? And a truer tweet has never been spoken in my life. Like, Tom Taylor should be the next Batman writer. I'm saying it. I'm putting my...
Yeah.
I would be quite happy to just cancel the remaining King issues and just give them to Taylor right now.
Oh dear, yes.
But
yes.
But no, like
Captain Atom
shows us just how powerful she is when she takes out Captain Atom in that way.
Yeah, she's because he's like
trying to intervene in Gotham.
She's like, he's like, don't you know who I am? And she's like, nah, not really.
I don't care. Yeah.
It just throws him out of this. Literally, we find out that if any Bat family members enter Gotham City, they'll kill Alfred. Right, that's the reason why they're not entering, and that any superheroes are being thrown out by Gotham Girl. So it's really, and I did like this issue a fair bit, because I think the last issue I mostly liked as well, even though there was a couple of weird elements, and the way it kind of shoved us into it was a little bit strange. I think between, by the end of the last issue, getting a real sense of what the world that we've set up is here in Gotham, and then this issue having, Scarecrow with Kite Man and Tweedledee and Tweedledum, like having them be like the few remaining villains who have not been mind washed yet, and like running scared, from Flashpoint Batman. I actually really like this stuff. I like the world building it's doing and the new status quo that it's set up. It's starting to feel a little bit I don't know, No Man Land-esque, or I've heard people compare it to Arkham City a little bit. So like I actually kind of like that aspect of it. I laughed out loud when Kite Man's flying, Scarecrow and one of the Dumbs.
One of the Tweedles.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm not calculated for this weight, we're far too heavy, and Scarecrow just blasts the Tweedle with some gas and he falls, and Kite Man's like, oh good grief, that's not what I meant. I didn't mean to do that.
Going back to the feeling like no man's land or whatever. I definitely feel like this is King's commentary on his take on Batman, right? Where we got War Jokes and Riddles, which was about chaos versus control, and now you have controlled chaos, and that it's basically a Gotham where Batman won, right? But is that really a Gotham worth having? Because you have Flashpoint Batman in this where he doesn't Bruce doesn't need to be there. Bane's actually like running things, and the city seems to be going, and that the government's kind of like, well, Gotham's problems are Gotham's problems, as long as they're not causing problems for the rest of us.
Yeah, but
We'll look the other way.
It almost sounds at one point as well that Gotham's like government are actually letting all this go because it has actually improved the city, and they're just like, no, we're just going to let this go on. As far as we're concerned, it's solved everything.
Right, but it's still Gotham doing what Gotham does, right? That hasn't changed. The crime and elements are still there. It's just, it's almost like Batman fighting it has made things worse. And whatnot. So I like that commentary on Batman and how Flashpoint Batman seemed to think like in this world where Batman's not needed, everything's better. But it's really not. Nothing's really changed. So it's almost like this thing like, what has Bruce actually done? And I feel like we'll see. And that's what King's setting up here is when Bruce does finally snap out of whatever coma he's in.
Yeah, we're building up to a big return where he like comes back to save the city and right things, back to the way they are.
Right.
Can I say how much I love the kite quarters? Can we talk about that a little bit?
My biggest negative on this issue was I don't think King really knows how to write Damian. The whole stuff with him and Tim.
Mm-hmm.
The Tim stuff didn't bother me as much, but just like, I don't know, after getting Damian from Taylor and DCeased and having Tomasi write him, I think Tomasi gets Damian's voice the most.
He's the person who's got Damian the best. Absolutely.
Yeah. So after coming off of that for a while and then going to this where he just feels like a spoiled brat.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I'm just like, I feel like this would be a moment for him and Tim to actually bond and be like, I don't know what to do. Instead of going, well, no, I know exactly what to do, and I'm going to run in there and save the day, where, I don't know, I just feel like Damian's grown in the years since,
I mean, I think what I like about this issue is that while we got the actual details of what's happening in the city last issue, I think this is the one that gave me a sense of how it feels. And what the feeling is and the predicament that Batman needs to come and save it from. That final page of Gotham Girl with, Flashpoint Batman saying we have won, like it's over. And seeing the villains running scared, and obviously they come and get Kite Man and whatever. And I also like the scene with Selina putting up the painting she's stolen, that she's like only stolen to raise money to like make sure Bruce can heal. Like I kind of like the little speech she gives about how we have to give it away tomorrow, but it's nice for just one night. And it almost sounds representative of their relationship, where he's always going to go back to work. Like it's always going to go back to being the bat and the cat. But they have these little windows of, their.
Yeah, and I love
Matty Mike's good.
I shall stall for a second until Matt's.
I will say I'm not a fan of Daniel's Selina without the goggles.
That's
fair.
I felt the art in this issue was not Daniel's best.
I think his Catwoman is fine. His Selina is not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I like his Scarecrow actually a lot. If we're on the
subject. Scarecrow did look good. I want to say about that painting, about how just mundane the actual painting is, the Renoir. Like compared to we get this little lesson about where art was at that time, and that it's just basically someone going about their business. And I just feel like that's also Bruce's life. That, he is Batman, Batman is Bruce, and they're inexorably tied to one another.
Yeah.
No matter how much neither Batman nor Bruce wants to, believe that.
I've figured out on Selina what it is about Selina that looks so weird. So because it's not goggles anymore, is it? It's just the eye. Yeah. So. But she's still got the rest of it up. She's just folded up the bit under her eyes, and that's what makes it look really weird. Because, the rest of it's still up there. The ears are still there, but you haven't got the goggles sitting there. And alternatively, you haven't got anything around her eyes, so it looks off because of that.
Hmm. Um, yeah, and I like kind of the desperation of Selena here at the end when she says, you know, she promises she won't steal anything again if he wakes up, and I don't believe her, but it's kind of this moment for her, like, to show how concerned she is, and she's like making these false promises because, no, you have to wake up again. And I like the idea of, like, I left for a while and this is what's happened to him, like, you know, like, I left, I was out of his life and everything came crumbling down. And funnily enough, the book itself has kind of struggled a little bit since Selena kind of left, interestingly. So I was actually pretty into this issue, and I was mostly positive on the last one. I think I'm into City of Bane. It's not necessarily hit like absurd highs for me yet, but I'm getting a feel for the city and what's going on and how everyone's like dealing with it. Obviously it's a long arc, so we'll see if it sustains the, I think it's like almost 10 issues that it is. Because it's like 75 to 85 or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm mostly actually positive on this issue. I'm happy to say that about Batman again, because there was a little time there where I was kind of not looking forward to reading it every week or every 2 weeks. And it's coming kind of back around to what I like about it, because I like King's Batman for a long time. It just there was this weird stumbling block for a few arcs, like, you know, there. We've talked about that before. We'll have to get into it again, but I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about the issue overall, Matt?
No, I like it. I just at this point with King's Batman, I'm just like, it's there. It's a book I read. I don't look forward to it, you know.
Too far
or
gone.
anything. Yeah, like I'm waiting until the end. So my ear itches.
And I presume Connor's the most negative out of the three of us.
Yeah, you know what Matt was saying there. I'm kind of out now. Well, there's only 10 issues left, right? So, well, less than now, I think. But you know, it's just like, all right, well, might as well. I'm not a fan of the extended monologue still. Like, you got the, you know, the 2-page Captain Atom to Tim monologue, and, you know, the Selena monologue to Bruce. It's multiple pages of just one character monologue. I'm not a fan of this.
That's fair. I mean, I guess that's a taste, like, because I actually quite like the Selena monologue, but
It's not the content itself, it's just the way it's paced, where okay, here's a big, huge page of text with all this stuff on it. And I feel it when I'm reading it.
that's fair. Well, I'll definitely say that about another book later, don't you worry. I've got thoughts. So, yeah, that's Batman. You know, I'm kind of excited a bit so far. I like... There's potential here for the run to go out on a high. Obviously, it's not the end of the run technically, because we've still got Batman, Catwoman coming afterwards. So, which I'm kind of hoping is just 12 issues of them arguing about the street or the boat. It was a street or a boat. It was a boat. It was a street.
I hope that it gets to that point and they flip.
Yeah. No, do you know what I want them to do? I want them to switch which one's arguing for what, and then for none of us to realise, because I don't remember which one was arguing for what. I just remember they were arguing about it.
Oh. Well, Batman was the street because that's year one, and I remember that one. So Catwoman's is the boat.
Do you know what the problem is, Matt? Is I'm not convinced you're right.
No, I thought it was the other way around.
I thought it was the other way around.
Son of a bitch.
Hey, Firefly. What's your thoughts? You're a cat. You must have an opinion.
I'm going to find out now, because that's going to annoy the hell out of me.
Just go back to that first Rooftops issue if you...
That's what I'm looking at.
No, that'll have it right at the start. Way back in the teens. Or early 20s.
Catwoman's is the black with the red outline, isn't it? Just looking at the page, in terms of the narration box.
Sure.
Grey is Bruce. Yeah. Bruce, it was on a boat, and Selena, it was on the street.
Victory! All right.
Yeah.
Matt, what are you giving Batman 76?
I'm gonna go 7.5.
So it was very fair. Connor?
Not a 5. I didn't hate it as much as the last couple.
My God, he's so... We'll give it a 5. I didn't hate it as much as the last couple. I am going to give it a nice even 8, I think. I'm feeling it. Look at me having 2 positive scores so far. Which will take us on to Justice League number 29. Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV writing, with Bruno Redondo on the art. I have mixed emotions on this issue, because a lot of this issue is Jarro single-handedly fighting the Legion of Doom as Robin with his own little batarang, and he's grappling around, and it's delightful. And then there's pages with all this backstory narration, much of which we already know, that just fills the page with boxes that I thought was a chore to read through. So I think the issue has problems from a construction point of view, but there's a lot of delightful beats in here that I do really like.
I think Jarro's fighting, and he goes on, she's like, "Yo, Batman nerve pinch." And then he hides behind the thing. He's like, "Batman stealth." I'm like, this is the best thing ever.
And notice how those pages are nice and like free and clean, not a lot of text.
I'm not disputing this.
I do feel like this was the issue, the jump on issue, because it kind of recapped everything that led to this point.
And do you know what it is? I actually like the opening narration that just explained the backstory of where Starro comes from. I actually quite like that as a little history lesson.
That's all new, because I'm looking it up right now. And this whole, I thought it was the Zero World, but then later they called it the O World.
Yeah,
so,
I went with O World just because Starro.
Yeah, I was calling it Zero until they sort of put it at the end of his name to like name him Starro, and I'm like, okay, I guess it's the O World.
But then why? At least in my physical copy, it looked like a zero with a line through it.
Oh, is that? It's that in the digital as well.
Yeah, no, but okay. I think the slash through is actually a way of representing the letter versus the number.
No, that's the number.
No,
that's
reverse. It's the number.
Yeah.
Am I the wrong way around?
Yeah. So that's why I looked at that and I was like, okay. But I like that whole idea of he comes from the super harsh world on the edge of the universe where things shouldn't exist the way they do.
Yeah.
And that's what makes kind of Starro one of a kind.
Yeah, and the Starro world was, or the old world, whatever you call it, was like all these planets are supposed to die young. They're not supposed to survive, but his one is the one where the life forms actually advanced enough to become, Starro.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. Also, I just got an alert on my iPad as I'm looking at the comic. Tim just saying that he got a $10 discount for his oil change at the mechanics, and that the perks of being the creator of Goatman just keep coming, baby. I'm just going to let everyone know.
It's pretty funny.
Joey tweeted yesterday, Matt. Just I want to mention one more tweet he made yesterday from the Screams After Midnight account, right? He tweeted out, "Today is not a regular recording day." That's all he said. And if I told you that, which I just did, what does that?
He's not wrong.
Yeah, but what does that imply to you?
Recording day.
Would that imply to you that we're going to record unusually on this Friday?
See, I'm too close to Tim because I know how he is, and he meant that as it's a fact.
Yes.
Today is not a regular recording
while
day.
we're on random tangents that things have popped up.
Sure.
I actually have something related to DC. A little news thing that just popped up.
Oh my! Breaking news! Breaking news, everyone!
It's not huge news, but it's good news. Capullo just tweeted. I say tweeted just. It was like half an hour ago. He's just signed a new exclusive contract with DC, and he's got plans for a new book with Snyder to produce a new book with them.
Okay.
More Batman.
Well, I don't think it will be Batman this time actually, because we didn't talk about it, but he was tweeting last week about the final issue of Last Night on Earth, where someone asked him, how long is it going to be, and he was like, don't know yet. As long as DC have given him free reign to just make it as long as it needs to be, which I mean is good of them, but it could be meaty. Just fair warning when we get to that week.
Well, I'm not reading this, so I'm okay.
Yeah, but the first two are really damn good.
But back to Starro.
Yeah, it's back to Starro.
I did like how it played with the whole Rebels, Starro the Conqueror or the Star Conqueror, and all of that. But no, it was really cool to see the history of Starro played out in that way, and then how that pays off at the end with Jarro. But yeah, we see him fight the Legion of Doom. And Luther brings up, this dream that Starro had. And then that's where I don't want to say it lost me, but that's where I was like, oh, well, maybe this is how this whole Justice Doom War kicks off is with the death of Jarro, because it's it's not comics unless you kill a Robin.
Of course,
right?
yeah.
So that's where I thought it was going, but then we get to this turn.
Just
that I didn't quite enjoy.
Yeah, look at this streak of boxes here. Look
It
at
is.
this.
It is.
All
But
densely packed.
alternatively, you have Jarro shouting out, "For justice, you turds!"
For Justice, You Turds is a great line of dialogue. It might even be the title of this episode. I'm not going to lie, but
It's pretty fantastic.
like, and obviously the big twist here, because I mean, he has the back cannon, which is charged when ready. And that's kind of fun. And then we get this 2-page layout where he's going through, like, basically this is the recap of like all this just Doom stuff with Perpetua. And don't get me wrong, I don't actually mind getting some of this recap because it's been going on for a while. I've not necessarily remembered every single negative force.
It's been going over a year at this point for the run.
Bit too densely packed there on the boxes though. This was the page where I was like, oh my god, that's a lot of boxes with a lot of
I agree. That was a lot.
dense text. But I liked all the fighting a lot, and I loved, when they think they've got him beat, and then we just hear, he's not alone, Luthor, and we just get the silhouette of the Justice League, and he's like, he's with us. And we get Batman hugging him, and all this stuff. And of course, the twist here, the reveal is that this is all just not really happening. It's all in, because we see Batman pull off like a black, Starro, and Starro's become, not full size, but he's much bigger now, and he's got all the Justice League with stars in their faces, and he's basically trying to convince them this is the plan, that they have to do this way.
Yeah, because he's had a vision of them losing.
Yes.
Yep.
And he's actually, in his weird, twisted way, thinks he's doing the right thing here.
Right, but again, and that's what Batman tries to explain to him, is that you have to let people make their own decisions. You can't just control them, even if you're trying to protect them.
But I do believe he's coming from a good place this time.
Yeah.
But let me correct myself, because the hug actually comes after they're all back and awake, because Batman convinces him to shrink back down and convinces him this is not the right thing to do, and he hugs him, and it's actually kind of adorable.
Yeah, and then you got the rest of the going, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, they're all just confused. They don't understand what's happening. So this is actually kind of delightful. Obviously, we love the little Robin outfit and all the other little things that go along with that. So I actually liked most of this issue. There was just like 2 or 3 pages that really dragged it down for me, where I was like, oh, this is a shortest read through. I
think it's only the twice. There's the page where it starts with the Dark Multiverse stuff, and then you have the double page of the the general recap. I think those are the only 2 points where I felt it, and I know I admit those are bad pages. But
of course,
and
the big reveal at the end though is that the Legion of Doom have their own piece of Starro which they're going to grow, and we're going to get a big evil Starro to take on Jarro.
But they're still connected. So when Jarro just took over all of the League and was inside all their heads, it's fed the data back to this bit of Starro.
Yeah, so
they've got all of their battle plans.
Yeah,
which I like about this too, because if you know if you know anything about marine biology, you'll know that if you cut off one of the arms of a starfish, and as long as it has that center piece of it, it'll regrow a whole new starfish. So the fact here that they're playing into that, I thought was pretty cool.
No. So yeah, I mostly like this issue. I just have some complaints.
Yeah, it was all a dream thing. I'm just
I didn't mind it all being a dream because it was so ridiculous with what he was doing.
No, that's fine, but just I don't know. It's just a trope I'm tired of. Not that it was used.
I was actually kind of relieved, because it was kind of ridiculous just how he was legitimately fighting seemingly the entire Legion of Doom and holding his own. I'm like, yeah, this doesn't feel right.
Yeah, I don't mind that. I've read weirder things in Snyder's Justice League.
Well, sure, no, I can't argue with that.
So
him having a go at Luthor's fashion sense. It's like, you deserve to die just for bringing back that the turtleneck and sleeveless thing.
That makes no sense.
For Justice, you turds. Matt, what are you giving Justice League?
I'm gonna give it an 8.
Carter?
I'm giving it an 8.5 with the acknowledgement that this would have been like a 9 easily without those 2 pages dragging it down.
I'm going to go with a straight 8, and I will echo the idea of this maybe being higher if it wasn't for those few pages that really dampened the pacing and it really dragged to a halt on those occasions.
It definitely did, and it's such a shame because everything else is on top form in this issue, I think.
Yeah. This is the sort of silliness that I love this run playing into, is the Jarrow stuff. Like, that's so endearing, and the fact that Batman's actually bonding with him and actually talking him down is just perfect. So
yeah, and actually teaching Jarrow to be better. It wasn't just okay, well, he's a villain again now.
Yeah. So that'll take us on then to Lois Lane, issue 2. Greg Rucka writing with Mike Perkins on the art. And we have conspiracies, we have the question, and we still have lots of tabloid gossip about Lois Lane cheating on Clark. Because
it's more of the same.
Yeah.
In the best possible way.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really fault that description of it.
Concerned Perry, but also disappointed parent.
Yeah,
Perry.
and more spelling corrections and.
But you know what is like, she misspells the, but she never misspells the name of the people that she's writing about, which completely befuddles.
Yes.
Perry, which I love. That's why I think I love Rucka so much. Is he's a really good storyteller when it comes to intrigue and espionage and all this, but it's the little like character human moments like that with even with the question and Lois talking with one another. That's where this really ups the level.
Yeah. Just to be fair to Lois, I will often typo the word "the" as T-E-H. That's not an uncommon occurrence for myself.
Right. I think there's a typo and a misspelling, and I feel like
there's differences. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. Because the rest of them are definitely misspellings.
Yeah.
Where detention should have a U in it, according to Lois.
Yeah.
Detention.
No version of detention ever has a U, Lois.
I'm pretty sure detention had you in it a lot, Matt.
Yeah. So
I'm here all week, folks.
I went right over his head as well.
It didn't, because I've never been to detention because I was a good boy.
Was I ever in detention?
Never...
I don't think I was ever in detention either.
No, I was in detention all the time.
That's because you were a ginger little shit.
It's true. I could not even begin to count the amount of times I was in detention.
I only ever get one punishment exercise as a kid, and it was unjustly, might I add. I actually would dispute that I deserved it.
Yeah, of course you would.
Well, no. So here's I'm going to explain how I ended up with this. Right.
Defending his honor now.
So punishment exercise or lines or whatever you call them, whenever you are, right? The idea you have to repeat, write out a thing and repeat it, right? That's what I'm referring to here. Which so. English class, right? I was off sick for 2 whole weeks from school. I was back, and my second day back, there was apparently a homework, essay to be handed in. And I had been gone for 2 weeks. Now, apparently, technically, the first time it was mentioned was before I left, right before I left. But I had been gone for 2 whole weeks. I had no idea it was due in this day. I had no idea what the exercise was. I had no idea about anything. And the reason why I got one is because enough people didn't hand it in that the teacher got so pissed off that everyone who didn't hand it in got an exercise, and I felt unjustly prosecuted. I was not there for any of the talk about what we're supposed to do in said exercise. Unjust.
Here's the thing.
Unjust.
Were you told before you went off that it was due? Yes or no?
She claims, but
So yes. Did you hand it in? Yes or no?
But I wasn't there to actually, there was presumably time spent in that 2 weeks talking about what the exercise was and what we were supposed to do with it. This was unjust.
Why are you gone for 2 weeks?
I was sick.
How sick were you for 2 weeks?
I don't remember. It was 16 years ago.
Man.
I'm telling you, what was the most unfair detention I got?
They were all fair. They're all ironclad. What are you talking about?
I punched someone back who punched me and I got detention. That felt unfair. The guy came up to me and punched me, so I punched him back and may have knocked out his tooth. But I got detention.
That does feel unfair.
He knocked out his tooth.
Yeah, it feels.
He punched me.
No, it's like in hockey. If you hit the guy and he goes down, and doesn't get back up, you get a suspension. If you both get up and go to the back, you're just out for that game. So
No, it's bullshit. If someone hits me, I'm not gonna sit there and do nothing.
right, but I'm saying the reason you got extra was because you knocked out a tooth. That's all I'm saying.
Shit, he didn't get any sort of punishment.
Nah, it's unfair.
bullshit.
It's unfair to the other
Anyways,
guy. If anything, he should have
Lois
been
Lane,
given a A grade for punching you in the face.
Yeah. Anyways, Lois is taking the fight to the government here
Yes.
with freedom of the press, and there it opens up with this tabloidy her relationship with Superman, and how does Clark Kent feel? They've been married for 12 years, and Clark and her are walking, and we kind of saw this scene in another issue. I want to say it was in one of the Bendis books, either in Leviathan or
I think it was issue 1 of this.
was it?
It was either
Yeah.
issue 1 of this or it was the special.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
But him basically saying like, how do you deal with this? Like I'm gonna handle it. She's like, well, no, because then you just play into their hands. I'm a big girl and I'm tough. Like let me handle it the way that I know how, and that's not addressing it. Eventually it'll blow over. But Superman's not like that. He's a guy that can hear everything all the time. So, and I've never related to Superman more, because people tell me to just let stuff go all the time.
Yeah,
And y'all better believe I don't. So
I don't know if your temper is comparable with Superman's quest for justice for all.
when I get really upset, I do have this hypervigilance thing where, yeah. So anyway, and there's the question, really fun scene.
Oh yeah.
Where she sneaks into the basement. She looks like she's a wino or a drunk. Has what I'm going to assume, because they're in Russia, a vodka bottle.
It's a reasonable assumption.
Yeah, right. Attacks is ever looking over this reporter that committed suicide by jumping out a window. Gets to her apartment in this basement, and it just looks like there's a murder scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely wasn't
They
suicide.
didn't even try and cover it.
To quote the hit film Mystery Men, fell out of a window onto some billets.
Yeah. So, but yeah, and
I love that Connor was worried where I was going with that.
yeah, I was waiting for
I got
Buffy.
to quote the hit, and I was like, "Don't
Yeah.
bloody dare!"
No, we see her and the Question meet up, and they're in a burger place, and what I like about this scene is this idea that Lois is like, no, the best way to hide is to not try and overhide. Like, just be out in plain sight and act like everything's normal. That if you act suspicious, people will notice you. But she confronts this Agar about
Which, as a Thor fan, I'm going, wait.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie.
Is this
In my head, I was thinking Dario Agar as soon as she said that name.
Is he going to turn into a Minotaur?
That would be on brand for Rucka.
Yeah, right? Minotaurs, right? Ferdinand?
Yeah.
I like that.
Said he turns into Swiss cheese by the end, but more on that later.
He actually, that's actually quite a dark scene, because he does threaten to punch her in the face, and she's like, go
Yeah?
for it. With all these witnesses, go for it.
Yeah.
You'll make my job easier if you do that.
And it's also because she's uncovering that, and again, this is where it hits a little bit real life, ripped from the headlines, that she wants to ask him about his company's investments, and we come to find out that in the story that she puts out, that company is funding detainment camps at the border, and they're getting super rich off of them because they gave money to Department of Homeland Security. So again, that's Rucka playing with real stuff.
Yeah, the phrase "fake news" is even used at one point, and the guy says that to her.
Yeah.
And so it plays up where that there's a class of people right now that really hate the media, and not for like the media, doing what they do and trying to maintain this false sense of balance, because to them it's worse to be seen as not balanced than to actually report the news. Lois is actually reporting the news, and that's why he doesn't like her.
Yeah. And he agrees to meet her later.
Yep.
just not obviously not there right in public, which seems a bit sketchy, but obviously we'll get to that. Then there's a scene with Perry on the phone where we mostly talked about this stuff earlier with all the misspellings
and she's doing her writer stretches, which I remember from writing long reports in college. Banging out a whole 20-page screenplay in a night.
Oh yeah, many a time, Matt. Many a time I've done that.
You gotta get your stretches in.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that must be from Rucka's real life.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the things that I've heard is that one of the biggest threats to like health in general right now is that so many of us work sitting down, and that they really recommend that everyone gets up and just walks around for a little bit once per hour because it's killing our bodies.
Sedentary lifestyle. So I thought that was fun there, and the stuff with Perry we talked about earlier, but she goes to meet. She has questions as backup, which I love. Like, I hope this becomes a thing where, when Bendis was writing Daredevil, you got to know a lot of the supporting cast.
Oh yeah.
Like you had Iron Fist show up, Spider-Man, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones. I hope now going forward throughout Superman that we get Renee and Lois talking and teaming up.
I just want to just before we move on to the scene proper, I like the final panel of the Perry scene where just again to add to the mood of the sort of the noir kind of detective-y style of it. We go to this shot outside her window when it's raining, and it's just this kind of look back in at her as she finishes the conversation. Is this really kind of like ominous, like shady stuff's going down soon, and she's hoping for the best, but it is dangerous. I don't know. It just added a lot to the mood to the book for me. Just little things like that.
I actually think the art got better as it went on because we started in broad daylight, right? In the morning, and I think once we got to evening and night and the darker scenes, I think the art just naturally suits that better. Perkins is very really heavy shadows. I think it plays into the dark time of night much better.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I got really confused for a second because the dress that Lois is wearing for this meeting, it makes her look like she's got tattoo sleeves, and I was like, what happened? Lois got really turned into a baker all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they go to this restaurant where she's going to meet the senator dude, or the business dude, whatever he is, and
one and the same anymore.
Yeah, and Renee spots a guy with a gun and dives in and kind of saves the day. And it leaves it on this place where someone really didn't want him to talk to her, but she's not sure which one of them was the target. Well, they try to take her out because she's investigating this, or did they take him out because he was going to talk? Or, and obviously he does get taken out, but it's this question of, was he the target or was it her, and they just got him instead?
Right.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished either way, because Lois doesn't know.
Well, there's no information to get now either way.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But no, I'm loving the shady espionage kind of aspect to this book.
Yeah,
that's been great. I think it's maybe the most consistent issue 1 to 2 I've ever read.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is there's no big fancy big set piece or anything like that. Sure, you got to shoot out at the end, but it doesn't feel, it's not a big action piece. It just feels like exactly the same as what issue 1 did.
Yeah, it's not that
because we liked issue 1 so much. That's a good thing.
This is more All the President's Men than it is anything else that a comic book usually is, I guess, is what I'm saying. It's not a superhero story.
Yeah.
Which is what a Lois Lane book to an extent should be, and having her team up with Renee is actually, I think, a really good idea. So.
Well, yeah, I like that Renee's her fixer.
Yeah.
When she needs to go get stuff, information that Lois can't go get, send her. I like that.
Yeah. So, no, still digging Lois Lane. Quite a bit. What are you giving it, Matt?
I'm giving it a 9.
Ooh. Connor?
Well, I'm going to give it an 8.
I'm going to give it an 8.5. Being non-committal.
Yeah.
Alright, that was Lois. Which will take us on to Sinestro, Year of the Villain, Issue 1, written by Mark Russell, art by Yildiray, Cinar. So, Matt read this. I was planning on reading it, and then when I looked at the first couple of pages, I really wasn't feeling it. And obviously, Mark Russell is someone that I've come to respect as a writer, and that was the main reason why I was going to read it. I think just the idea of all these Year of the Villain tie-ins right now is just making me feel a little bit deflated, and I'm just not into them, trying them right now. Maybe I'll change my mind as time goes on. But Matt read it, so Matt can tell us if
Yeah.
this was worth
if we should have read it.
yeah, because obviously
Yeah,
this was
so
a larger book. This was a $5
yeah.
bigger book.
So I got this because of Mark Russell, because so far I've really enjoyed what he's written. And there's a Mark Russell book to the T, like, because it gets like, Sinestro going into space and trying to stop these big giant aliens from destroying stuff, that Lex needs, to basically being a mirror on society. Like, I almost feel like Mark Russell could write a series of Black Mirror comics, and they would fit right in. And so this one's about so Sinestro. He has the ultraviolet, harnessed power, and Lex sends him out into space because there's these group of aliens called the Paragons, and they're kind of like Celestials, but they're not as big, or even those ones from No Justice. But they're basically you can't kill them because they regenerate too quick. So Lex is like, hey, Sinestro, I want you to take care of this with your ring. Like, this is the type of stuff you used to deal with the Green Lantern Corps, and don't fail me. Like, I'm getting a very big Empire or like Emperor vibe from Lex in this issue, because he's trying to spread the word of doom, and you have these Paragons going around and destroying these worlds. And the first world is where there's this God Emperor that's completely taken over. It's called Planet Alpha Ceti 5. And the Paragons are just taking it there to them, and they end up completely destroying the planet. So you get a flashback to Lex. That's where Lex tells him, you need to get out ahead of this. So Sinestro ends up finding out that the reason they can't be killed is that there's these tiny little, like almost a universe in of itself, of beings called microns, and they only exist for like nanoseconds. But in that nanosecond, they give everything in their life to these Paragons who they worship as gods. So Sinestro decides, like, well, in order to defeat the Paragons, we have to, go talk with the Microns. So he basically uses the ultraviolet ring to split kind of his essence, to go to each of the Paragons to talk with the Microns there. And while he's there, he ends up basically in the first one finds out that they worship him like gods, and him trying to make them not believe in them only makes them double down. So he has to rethink about this, because that plan didn't work. He thought he'd weaken the Paragons, but the Microns just reinvigorated him even worse. So they destroy this next planet. Lex gets upset at him and is like, you're supposed to be doing this, don't fail me again. And so Sinestro looks at the tiny versions of himself and go, you need to rethink about this. So they do. So basically he goes in and poses as a doctor, which I think he was on Korrigar before, so there's not much of a reach. And he ends up basically making them question the Microns by expanding their life. So instead of lasting only a couple nanoseconds, he expands them. So now they have time to do other things that's just not in service of the Paragons. And in doing that, he gives them the sense of freedom. So they stop repairing the Paragons. And once they do that, they're easily defeated. But in expanding their life, he completely uprooted the culture of the Paragons to where it ends up looking a lot like ours, to where now that they had more time, it allowed them to develop music, and it looks like the 60s a lot. And then they start, fighting amongst each other about if the Paragons exist and if they should be serving them. And there's this whole like talk show of two of them about, where culture has gone. And in doing so, he killed God and killed the Paragons and made them vulnerable. So once they were vulnerable, he had talked one of them into maintaining the Paragons, and that was the one society that kept them. So now Lex has a Paragon to use. And in doing that, basically Sinestro had become this god figure amongst them, because he opened their eyes of what it meant to be a Micron. And now this older generation of Microns in this, who had freedom, this older generation now looks at the newer generation that they're lazy and they don't want to do anything, and that they need to believe in the Paragons more like they did, even though that they got to, have their freedom. So it was like this real good take on boomers versus millennials and how they're kind of the same, but the boomers look down on the millennials for doing what they did. And now Lex has a Paragon to do with what he wishes. But it was a really fun issue. It was a nice little, I feel like this could have been an annual instead of I don't know where it would have fit in. But, it's Mark Russell doing what Mark Russell does. And the whole bit about the Microns, it reminded me of, there's an episode of Futurama where Bender ends up with this society that lives on him in space, and they're all microscopic, and they end up going to war with each other at one point over which is, the true Bender. But I think there's a Twilight Zone in that too, so of that theme. But I really enjoyed it. I mean, the art by Cinar it's fine. It does a lot of cool space things, but it's nothing amazing. It gets the job done. But yeah, I do recommend it if you like, especially I know Pete likes sci-fi a whole lot. Connor's up there, but I don't know as much. But yeah, it was definitely worth the $5, I think. So, but yeah, I'd like to see Mark Russell do more of these two. I don't necessarily want him on a full series, right? I wouldn't want him jumping into Batman and telling these kind of morality plays. But if he were to do a story in an annual or a one shot, I think it'd
from
be
what
really
I
interesting.
gather, this is kind of what his Flintstones was like.
Yeah.
But again, it's Flintstones. Sure, why not? I wouldn't want it in the main Batman book. I agree.
Yeah.
I think what you do with them maybe is you let him basically get what King does and give him the 12-issue, books and say, hey, right, pick a character and do a 12. That's essentially what he's doing Wonder Twins, I suppose, when you think about it. But
or like what they, with Tom Taylor, where they give him Injustice, the digital first sort of thing. Just kind of free reign to do what you want in those.
However, we are more than ready for Taylor to take on some main ongoing books. I'm just putting that out there.
But yeah, I mean, I was real cautiously optimistic just because I really like Sinestro and I like Mark Russell. I had no idea that's where the story was going, and once I got halfway through and I could kind of see what he was doing and basically making them doubt the existence of God and what that means to society and how he becomes with his science because he expanded their life, he becomes what's important. So now the Microns are obedient to him, which means now the Paragon is obedient to him. And it was just, again, he writes Black Mirror, the comic books, I feel at times. So, yeah. I'm going to rate it. I'm going to give it an 8. It was really solid.
Firefly scratch me. I'm just disciplining him.
Good.
Good.
I'm not even sure if Carr's saying good that I get scratched or good that Firefly's been disciplined, because I feel like both would apply to him.
He's going to say yes.
All right, so last bit we're going to talk about, that I'm going to talk about, because Carr didn't read it this time, was Superman Up in the Sky issue 2, which is the Tom King, Andy Kubert, the Walmart special. This is parts 3 and 4 of that in this book. And in this case, the two parts are a lot more separate. It really feels like after, because I think parts 1 and 2 was just a natural continuation of part 1, where he hadn't left Earth yet. Whereas these parts are just two different kind of chapters of his adventure in space, trying to get to the missing girl that he's looking for. So the first issue is actually a boxing issue, as weird as that sounds. But if you like the idea of Superman in his boxing trunks, which of course are red and blue with the S shield on the waist.
I feel like there's a cover of Superman with Ali in those. Yeah,
that sounds about right. And he's fighting Maito, who's the mightiest mercenary, the scourge of the galaxies. And it's this boxing match. And the idea is that Maito has some information about, who's behind where the girl, or who brought the girl, through this part of space or whatever. And the entire issue is this boxing match, and it's split into rounds, and it's, the conversation between them as they're punching each other, and it really feels like the final fight in like a Rocky movie, where the referee's like, okay, You're allowed your super strength and you're allowed your invulnerability, but no other powers, right? Because obviously this Mighty is, you know, also super strong and what. He's a big green alien dude. And, you know, Superman gets beat up. He looks very angry at parts. And it's all about his determination to not give up because he has to save this girl. And there's great moments where the alien's like saying, stay down. Just stay down, because you're going to lose it anyway. You might as well stay down and save some time. And no matter what, Superman always gets back up. And it's a really simple story, but it's one of these things where by the time it got to the end and Superman's just refusing to give up, it's hard not to get a little bit emotional. I feel like this two-parter is a darker Superman story, but it's a darker Superman story that works in the confines of who Superman is without betraying... You know, it's all about him fighting through the darkness because of his principles. So it works quite well. And I think by the end, you're kind of like almost getting a little bit teary-eyed, and you're kind of rooting for him and saying, no, do not give up because this is Superman. It's just taking the concept of Superman not giving up and putting it in a boxing match, essentially. To the point where you've even got these little alien dudes in his corner who are like, who is Mighty-O anyway? He's nobody. Who are you? You're Superman. Now go fight him. And, you know, things like that. And it goes through the rounds, and there's, you know, some great pages of like him looking like he's knocked out, but he gets back on his feet at the last second. And it just doesn't matter. He keeps going, and by the end of it, he's got a bulged eye. They're both covered in blood. The art's great, and ultimately he wins. And it's actually the other guy it's Mighty-O, when he realizes Superman's not going to go down, he just lies down and takes the 10 count because he says, I may as well just save the time. Because Superman's not giving up. He eventually believes that. So, yeah, that was part 3. I thought that was pretty solid. And then part 4, again, is a really sad, kind of dark tale of Superman. We don't see what's happened to him yet. He's floating in space on his deathbed. And these aliens take him... At first I thought it was actually Green Martians, but it's not. Because the first time I see one, it looked kind of Manhunter-esque. But... it's this healer who's got healing powers, and he's trying to heal Superman, and it's not working. But as he's connected to Superman healing him, he gets like bits and pieces of who Superman is. Like he sort of like telepathically links with him as he's doing it, and he has like visions of saving Lois. He hears Lois like shouting help as she's falling through the sky, and he's remembering Superman saving various people. And we meet this alien's wife and kids, and the idea that they don't want him to like lose himself, and he stopped healing Superman at this point. He had to give up because it was taking too much out of him and it was going to kill him. And he starts having more dreams and remembering more things that Superman's done, saving the entire galaxy, fighting Mongol, stopping nuclear bombs, and all sorts. And it becomes this conversation where he's basically saying to his loved ones, I have to save him even if it kills me, because everyone needs Superman. He has to exist. He will be needed again. So it's this really, really sad story of this alien giving his life so Superman can live, because Superman is needed. And it's exactly the sort of thing that is very kind of an extreme, and it does feel like a dark story, but again, it's about the idea of Superman being this inspiration. And, the issue ends, like, he's given his life to save him, and Superman goes to see his family. And he says that as he was healing me, and before he died, he shared thoughts with me, and there was a message for the children. All can be lost, but none are alone. And he hugs them and says he's sorry. And that's where the story ends. And it is a really dour Superman story, but again, it doesn't feel like... It's not in the same way where, like, Zack Snyder's movies feel like they betray what Superman is. It feels like, no, it's a really dark chapter in Superman, but Superman is still Superman. And it's kind of about that struggle. So, no, I mean, I'm not surprised King's Superman story is one of the more depressing Superman stories I've read, but it's depressing in a way that's also really uplifting. It's like, even through these hard choices, like, that hope of Superman still kind of shines through a little bit. So I actually really like both these parts, so I'm into it. But Kubert's art's obviously very good, especially in the boxing match. The boxing match stuff was great. But yeah. So, at this point, I do think Matt should probably read the trade at least when it.
Oh, I'll wait.
When it hits. Because, I mean, I'm a third through the story now. Should be good. So that's Up in the Sky issue 2. I'm probably gonna give it a solid 8.5. Like I actually, like, you know, I got emotional at the end of both stories, which is actually kind of impressive. So no, there you go. That's Superman Up in the Sky issue 2, which was the last book we're going to talk about this week. So we will move on to the part of the show where we pick our favourites. We do our favourite panel / moment, our favourite cover, favourite art, and top 5 books of the week. I actually only read 5, so I'll just be ranking all 5 of them, I suppose, but all the same. Yeah, so best panel / moment, Matt, what do you have for us?
I'm gonna go. It's Question's introduction in Lois Lane, where she sneaks into that. She knocks the dude out with a vodka bottle. That was pretty cool.
Cool, Connor.
I've got narrowed down to 2.
Is one of them for Justice Turds?
It's not, but it is a different Jarro line. The Jarro line is the Batman stealth. That cracked me up. But the other one, DCeased, it's Cyborg with Cyborg's entrance.
Okay, yeah.
It's a hell of a panel.
For me, there's a bunch of options that I've got in a few books, but I actually think I'm going to go with Justice League and go with the Justice League's entrance. You know, when they say he's not alone, and
all the silhouettes.
And obviously, it obviously turns out it wasn't real, but the moment still played really well for me. The idea that they're coming to back up Starro is really cool. So, or Jarro, sorry, Jarro. I should say Jarro.
Yeah.
I really like that. So no, Matt, what was your favorite cover of the week?
I had to look back over them. Think I'm gonna have to go with the Lois Lane variant. Oh no, the Justice League variant. I think that's the Dodson's one, right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, that's mine.
I think I'm going to jump. There's a couple of temptations. I mean, that variant for Batman's actually really.
Oh, the Delotto one.
Yeah.
That is nice.
That thing is just beautiful. In fact, I think I'm going to go with that. I was really tempted to go with the Final Destination DCeased variant, but I think I have to go with that Batman one. Just in raw art alone, it just looks so freaking good. Connor.
Yeah, good choice. But I'm gonna side with Matt and go with the Dodson's Justice League cover because I did really like that.
That's fair. All right. So that takes us on to best art of the week, Matt.
I'm gonna give it to Perkins for Lois Lane this time around. That was really good. Like Connor pointed out, the art got better as it got darker, which is a weird thing.
Sure. Connor.
I'm gonna give it to Justice League. I thought it was pretty great throughout and delivered on everything.
I'm tempted to say Batman for being more consistent, even though it's not Daniel's best stuff. I feel like all the other ones, like, you know, Lois Lane wasn't as great early on in the daylight. DCeased, I thought, had some dodgy faces. But I mean, it's kind of a weird one counting wise, but I feel like I'm actually going to go with Up in the Sky. Kubert's art and that's real good.
That counts, yeah.
And I feel like might be the most consistent of any of the books this week for me. So yeah, I'll go with that. No, I feel like some weeks there's like a standout or two that are kind of fighting for it. I feel like this week it was more of a like, oh, which one do I just happen to prefer the most, as opposed to there being an obvious winner.
I went with I thought Justice was very consistent. I don't think there was anything. I don't think there's any panel where I can point at and go, oh, I didn't like that panel.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I'm giving it to it, even though I don't think it's stand out. Oh, this is the best art, you know, that I've seen in weeks. It's good.
Yeah. Okay, so we all picked art, yeah?
Maybe I would just say, I'm just gonna go out on a limb and assume I would have picked Sharp if I'd read Green Lantern.
Well, probably, yes.
Just, you know, I'll just throw that out there.
Most likely. You can just count that whatever week you do it in. Well, that's next week or the week after.
Yeah.
So yeah, and so top 5 books, Matt, go.
Lois Lane, number 1. Justice League, number 2. Sinestro, You're the Villain, number 3. DCeased, 4. Batman, 5.
Okay, Connor.
I'm gonna go DCeased, Justice League, Lois Lane. Yeah.
And Batman, yes. I'm going to go Lois Lane, Superman Up in the Sky, DCeased, Justice League, Batman. I think, yes, we'll go with that. They're all, to be fair, they're all very. I rated everything this week an 8 or an 8.5. I think. Like this was actually a very narrow week for me in terms of range.
Very consistent week, even if like nothing was like, oh, this is the standout amazing book, because they're all very close to each other.
Yeah, and I feel like other than Connor's like 5 out of 10 for Batman, even our scores, like I think Matt went. It was his lowest was a 7.5.
Yeah, if you take away my Batman score though, everything else I had was 8 or 8.5.
Yeah, so hey, consistency is good. So there you go. That is what came out this week. I must confess, I may have forgotten to ask on Twitter what people's favourites were this week, so apologies for that. Apologies. We'll tell you what's coming next week though. So we have Batman and the Outsiders issue 4. We have Batman Universe issue 2. We have Catwoman 14, which we won't be covering, of course, but it is coming out. Same with Detective Comics 1009. We have Event Leviathan issue 3. We have The Flash 76. Oh, post year 1. Let's see how that goes. Very intrigued by that.
Death of the Speed Force, I believe, is what the arc's called.
We have Hawkman number 15. We have Justice League Odyssey 12, which of course we won't be covering. We have... Supergirl and Superman are still on this list, but we know they're not coming out now.
No, they will be on this list because they are still technically being shipped.
And if Matt does happen to get his hands on a copy by hook or by crook, we won't cover it until they're actually out, because I can't read them until they're out. So, and then we have Wonder Woman 76. So we actually we legitimately have about half the books that we did last week too, which is insane.
Should mention at least that Titans Burning Rage, which the Titans one of the Walmart specials.
Of course, yes. I wasn't as hyped about trying that one, but
no, that's fair. But I mean, if you're gonna just say all the things we're not reading, we should mention that one. I think
that's fair. It just didn't stick out to me in the list as much as the thing.
Yeah.
So no, quieter week 2, which is not such a bad thing to be honest. Last month was pretty hectic, so it's nice to have an easier one to breeze through next time. Lets us faff about a bit more.
It looks like it's gonna, without Supergirl and Superman, kind of on par with this week, give or take.
Bizarrely, it is. Yeah, it's like 6 or 7 books. So yeah. That's what's coming next week. And of course, as much as we don't need questions for next week, it is worth mentioning that you can send longer questions and questions in general that you want us to pull from in future episodes to an email address that we have now, which is mftvquestions@gmail.com. Please do send stuff over there, and we'll pull it on an episode where we want questions. So go and do that. Obviously, like and subscribe, all the usual things, and rate the podcast on Apple Podcasts or whatever podcast app you use. That does help us. You can also support us, of course, financially by going to patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, where you can support the show and everything we do for $1 or more a month, and you get some bonuses and exclusives and all that kind of stuff for all of our content if you do. Otherwise, check out other things we do. Me and Connor review a lot of TV shows. Right now, maybe most relevant is The Boys from Amazon, which is a satire of DC's universe, essentially. It's basically showing Zack Snyder how to actually do a deconstruction. But
it's very good.
It is very good. It's got a lot of heart in it, surprisingly.
It is what Zack Snyder wanted to do, crossed with a kick-ass movie, not comic, crossed with a kick-ass movie, and the good one. But as a TV show.
Yeah.
So well worth checking out.
Yeah, Homelander's terrifying. Almost every scene with Homelander, I'm just sitting there hoping the real Superman appears in the universe.
You'll
to
hope
kick the shit out of him.
Please don't let this be the moment where it's too far.
Yeah.
and that's saying something.
Yep. Yeah, they're worse than the Crime Syndicate. He's worse.
He's terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's kind of great that they made him like that.
I've never seen Ultraman do some of the shit that Homelander's done.
Yeah.
So yeah, go check out our reviews of that. Also, we have movie podcasts and stuff. I do a horror movie podcast with Tim called Screams After Midnight. Check that out. I do a sci-fi movie podcast with Tara called The Atomic Cinema Experiment, The Ace. So go check out that.
Out of interest, how much of Screams does Tim spend shilling Goatman?
To be fair, not as much as you think.
That's disappointing.
I almost have to prompt him to like promote it. I feel like he's being very humble.
He's shameless on Twitter.
He's absolutely shameless on Twitter. But he's actually bizarrely humble on streams. Once you get him face to face, you kind of scare him out of it. But no. Yeah, check out all the stuff we do. If you like some of our voices and our opinions, you can go check out all that stuff. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you very much for joining us for episode 176. Or 67? I think it's
167.
167. Yeah. What are you giggling at, Matt? You
That's numbers.
yeah. Anyway, so thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. And here's to finishing an episode around 2 hours, I think, this week, if my math, glancing at the timers, correct. We appreciate it. Keep reading DC Comics, and always remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.
Long live the Legion. I think next week or not.